The morning sun cast long shadows across the dusty main street of Millbrook. The town was waking up slowly, like it always did. Shopkeepers swept their porches. Women hung laundry on lines behind their houses. Children played quiet games in doorways. Before the day grew too hot, Sarah and Emma Williams walked hand in hand down the wooden sidewalk. The twin sisters were 8 years old, with matching blonde braids tucked neatly under their white bonnets. Sarah wore her favorite red dress with tiny flowers. Emma had chosen her blue one, the same color as her eyes. She clutched her worn rag doll close to her chest. The girls moved slowly, taking their time. They were on their way to help their mother at the general store, but they were in no hurry. Summer mornings were for noticing things, for watching how the light fell between buildings, for listening to the sounds of their small town coming alive. "Look," whispered Sarah, pointing across the street. "There's Mrs. Henderson again." Emma followed her sister's gaze. There, sitting in the narrow space between two buildings, was a woman they had seen many times before. Her name was Margaret Henderson. She had lived in Millbrook for 20 years. Everyone knew her story, though most people pretended not to see her anymore. Margaret had been married to Thomas Henderson, the town's blacksmith. They had been happy together. Thomas was strong and kind, with gentle hands that could shape iron, but never hurt a living thing. Margaret had kept a small garden behind their cottage. She grew the most beautiful roses in 3 counties. Then the fever came one winter. It took Thomas quickly. Within days, Margaret lost not just her husband, but her home too. Thomas had borrowed money to buy new equipment for the smithy. When he died, the bank took everything. The cottage, the shop, even Margaret's precious roses were dug up to make room for a new owner. Now Margaret lived on the streets. Her once neat brown hair hung in tangles around her face. Her dress, patched many times over, was the same one she had worn to Thomas's funeral. She carried all her belongings in a small cloth bundle. Every morning she found a different doorway or alley to call home for a few hours. The people of Millbrook had hardened their hearts against Margaret. Some said she could work if she wanted to. Others whispered that she brought bad luck. Most simply looked away when they passed her, as if she were invisible. But Sarah and Emma had never learned to look away. They saw Margaret as she truly was, a woman who had lost everything, who was scared and hungry and alone. This morning, Margaret sat with her back against the brick wall of the bank, the same bank that had taken her home. Her eyes were closed, but the twins could see she was not sleeping. Her shoulders shook slightly, as if she were crying very quietly. "She looks so sad," Emma said softly. "I wish we could help her," Sarah replied. The girls watched for a few more moments. Then they saw someone else approaching Margaret. It was Mr. Blackwood, the bank manager. He was a tall, thin man who always wore black clothes and a black hat. His face was hard, like stone. He carried himself as if he owned not just the bank, but the whole town. Mr. Blackwood stopped in front of Margaret. The twins could not hear what he was saying, but they could see he was angry. He pointed down the street, then back at Margaret. His mouth moved quickly, forming sharp words. Margaret looked up at him with frightened eyes. She shook her head slowly. She pointed to her small bundle of belongings, then to herself. She seemed to be asking where she could go. Mr. Blackwood's face grew redder. He reached down suddenly and grabbed a handful of Margaret's long hair. Then he began to drag her away from the building. Margaret cried out in pain and shock. She tried to stand, but Mr. Blackwood was pulling too hard and too fast. She stumbled and fell to her knees on the rough dirt street. Still, he kept pulling her by the hair, dragging her away from his bank like she was nothing more than trash. People on the street stopped to watch, but no one moved to help. They just stood there, staring, as if they were watching a play instead of a real woman being hurt. Sarah and Emma looked at each other. They had seen enough. "You're coming with us," Sarah said firmly. The twins ran across the street, their feet pounding on the wooden planks and then on the dirt. Emma still held her rag doll tightly in one arm. "Stop," Emma called out in her clear high voice. Mr. Blackwood turned, surprised. He was still holding Margaret's hair in his fist. Margaret knelt in the dirt, tears streaming down her face. "Let her go," Sarah said. Her voice was steady and brave, even though her heart was beating fast. Mr. Blackwood laughed. It was not a nice sound. "Run along, little girls. This is grown-up business." "No," Emma said. "You're hurting her. That's wrong. She doesn't belong here," Mr. Blackwood said. "She's making my bank look bad. People don't want to see her when they come to do business." Sarah stepped closer. "This is her town too. She used to live here when Mr. Henderson was alive. You can't just drag people around." Emma moved to Margaret's side. She knelt down in the dirt, not caring about her clean blue dress. Gently she took Margaret's hand. "Are you all right?" she asked. Margaret looked at the little girl with wonder. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to her with kindness. I'm all right, dear," she whispered. Mr. Blackwood still held Margaret's hair. "I said run along. This woman is a vagrant. She has no right to sit in front of my bank. Then she can sit somewhere else," Sarah said. "But you don't have to drag her. She can walk." Emma stood up, still holding Margaret's hand. Come on, Mrs. Henderson, you can come with us. Margaret looked up at the two small girls who were trying to protect her. Her heart, which had been frozen with grief and fear for so long, began to feel warm again. Mr. Blackwood finally let go of Margaret's hair. He straightened his black coat and adjusted his hat. Fine, he said, but I don't want to see her here. Again, Sarah helped Margaret to her feet. The woman's legs were shaky, but she managed to stand. Emma picked up Margaret's small bundle of belongings and handed it to her. Where will you go? Sarah asked gently. Margaret looked around at the faces of the townspeople who were still watching. Most looked uncomfortable now. Some seemed ashamed. A few had tears in their eyes. I don't know, Margaret said softly. Emma tugged on her sister's dress. The twins looked at each other and seemed to have a silent conversation. They nodded at the same time. You're coming with us, Emma said. But where? Margaret asked. To our house, Sarah said simply. Our parents will know what to do. Margaret's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not tears of sadness. I couldn't, she said. I'm just a You're Mrs. Henderson, Emma interrupted. You used to grow the prettiest roses in town. Mama told us about your garden. Sarah took Margaret's other hand. Come on, let's go home. The three of them walked slowly down the street together. The little girls on either side of the woman who had lost everything but had just found something. Precious kindness from the most unexpected place. Behind them, the townspeople watched in silence. Mr. Blackwood stood alone in front of his bank, looking smaller somehow than he had before. As they walked, Margaret felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. It was a small feeling, fragile as a new flower. But it was real. Thank you, she whispered to the twins. That's what neighbors do, Sarah said matter-of-factly. Emma squeezed Margaret's hand a little tighter. You're not alone anymore, she said. And for the first time since Thomas died. Margaret Henderson believed that might actually be true.